What's up, everybody? Welcome to my latest video, I guess. So this will be my first Q&A, I guess. I'll do these maybe every few weeks if I don't have much on my mind or much that I can think of to do a video about. Okay. So before I get to that, though, real quick, I just have a quick rant. So you guys, people who know me on Twitter know I go on these occasional rants. So on the Packers, regards to Packers on their thresholds. I've been noticing some people out there that have claimed that they know about the Packers thresholds and they've been studying it for years or what have you. But honestly, they're only maybe about half right. The stuff I've seen they put out there, they're about half right. Because unlike these people, I've actually been studying the Packers and their thresholds since probably Ted Thompson was there, since probably about, I'd say, just thinking here, probably about 2017-ish, maybe. Yeah, because Goody took over 2018. So yeah, 2017, actually probably 2016. It's a couple years before Goody took over. About 2016. So I've been studying their Packers and their thresholds and their draft tendencies and their history and this and that since then. So I've been studying it for a long time. So something I'm confident in, that I know what's going on with the thresholds. I'm not always 100%. No one ever is, because things change. No team sticks to exact thresholds, especially the Packers, especially under Goody. Under Ted, you can almost pretty much predict every year the players that would be on his board, because he stuck to his thresholds pretty religiously for the most part. Every now and then he'd pick a guy, but for the most part, he pretty much stuck to him. Goody's been more flexible. I've mentioned this before. So, like I said, some of the people, and these people that have been talking about it recently, they, 3 years ago, they were denying the threshold, denying, the Packers any sort of connection with their athletic thresholds to RAS. But all of a sudden, after I kind of badgered them for a long time about it, all of a sudden they're all about the thresholds, and the Packers have these thresholds. But upon, reading some of their articles and seeing some of the vlogs they've done, I'm finding they're, like I said, about half right. They're wrong about some stuff, like especially like on the O-line. They're wrong about some stuff, and then they're getting some of them are getting kind of confused with the guys they like and the guys that the Packers would take. There's nothing wrong with liking a certain player for your team. There's guys I've liked that I knew the Packers weren't going to take, and that's fine. But just be open and honest about that, knowing that, especially when you're a writer, or blogger, content creator, whatever you want to call it, that you're being forthcoming with that stuff, especially if you're talking about the thresholds, talking about the Packers thresholds, to say, hey, I like this guy. He probably doesn't meet the Packers thresholds. They probably won't take him, but he's a guy I like. That's fine. It's cool. We all have players we like, but that I feel like they're getting that confused with the guys they like and the guys that fit the Packers thresholds. But with that being said, so like I said, just be wary of like the people who, were denying this stuff a couple of years ago, and then all of a sudden they're claiming that they've been researching this stuff and but they're, they haven't, like, just like I said, like, look at my history and stuff, like, I'm not trying to pump myself up, but at the same time I kind of am, because I honestly feel confident about it, that, I'm about guys being on the board or not versus not being on the board. I'm not probably about, although I haven't done the math. I'm going to do it eventually, but when I get around to it. But I'd say I'm probably like 90% of the time right on guys, not whether the guys are on their board or off the board. Outside of stuff that I can't know. Like if there's like a medical thing that I didn't know about, or there's a character issue that I didn't know about, or that none of us know about. Stuff like that. Outside of stuff like that, that's stuff that none of us really know about. Most of us don't know about. That's why I say I'm like 90% right, something like that. When these other people are claiming the Packers in the draft, like for example last year's Siaki Ika, or they're claiming they're going to draft these big 6'8", 340-pound offensive linemen, or whatever, or these 5'9" DBs. It's not what the Packers do. I mean, if you like those type of guys, that's fine, but just be honest about it. Like, guys that the Packers are going to take. Okay, so that was about 5 minutes of my rant. Of course, if you guys have any questions about the Packers thresholds and want to know about it, understand them, just DM me, hit me up on Twitter, whatever. I'll let you guys know. I'll explain it to you guys. Pretty good, long, big, deep detail. Sorry, can't talk. Yeah, but I'll explain it in detail. Like because like I said, some of these people they're not really giving detail, like explaining it the right way. But anyway, so with that being said, I'm going to get on to the Q&A. Got a bunch of questions today already. First, it was only got a few. I was worried about I was going to have enough questions, but then I got a bunch last minute. All right. So to the first question from Mr. Ian Cummings, super Packers fan, well known on Twitter as a Packers fan. His question is, what do you think the best range is for the Packers to target a cornerback? And does Carrington Valentine factor into the equation? Okay, so do you think the best range is? Anywhere in the draft, really. I mean, it's been talked about before. Other people talked about the Packers basically have 3 corners on the roster, really, if you break down honestly. And even Stokes is an unknown. So, we don't know if he's going to be healthy, if he's going to be the same player he was before. We don't know. So, early, I would say, and especially since it's a good cornerback class, best range is take it early, anywhere in the first to third round. And they're probably going to need to take at least 2. They need someone to play slot because I don't have anybody to play slot right now. Jerry can play a little bit, but he doesn't want to play too much, so there goes that. And then Stokes and Valentine are pretty much outside corners. I think Valentine could probably play a little bit, but they're still going to want a slot guy. And then, of course, you probably want some more outside guys just to play and for depth and all that type of stuff. So I would say at least 2 corners, maybe even 3 that they'll take. Probably 1 on like the 3rd day, and probably maybe a couple early. But yeah, so there's that. And then does Valentine factor the equation? I think a little bit, because he did play a lot and he played okay, but I don't think enough to make them go, oh well, we're set at the 2 corners for the next 5 years or what have you. So I mean, like I said, to an extent. So yeah, like I don't think they're gonna go out there and get like 4 or 5 corners. They're not that bad. He played okay, like I said, and I like him a lot coming out of Kentucky. I like his talent, like his upside. I actually really like his fit for this new defense because at Kentucky, he was really good in man coverage, zone coverage. He was still learning, but he wasn't as good. He was more comfortable in press man. So he should fit this new defense a lot better. But so, like I said, I don't think he'll factor in it too much, but maybe a little bit. Okay, so on the next one from Ryan, who goes by GoPackGo82. His question was, what do I think of the Jeff Halfleaf hire after digging in and doing some research? Thanks. It's an interesting hire. I like it. I don't love it. I kind of preferred one of the Ravens guys. Yeah, any of them really, Weaver or any of those guys. But like I said, I dig into his defense. I like it. I wish it was a little bit more multiple as far as like using different alignments and stuff like that with the D line and that type of stuff. But other than that, I really like. I like the cover one. I like playing press man. I like having the safety at the top. Another one in the box. Hopefully he kind of mixes it up a little bit, maybe use some cover 2 occasionally, so it's not too obvious as defense as far as, the offense knows exactly where everybody's going to be. But again, like I said, I like it a lot. Like it's going to be aggressive. They're supposed to be blitzing the linebackers and all that type of stuff. It's just going to be interesting to see what exactly he does. But as far as we can tell, looks like it's going to be 4-3 even front. So they're not really going to need or use a true nose tackle and all that type of stuff. I'll be interested to see where exactly he lines up the edge rushers. If he winds up like a big wide 9, or if he kind of has them a little more in, that's going to be something I'm interested to see what he does. And then even if they draft edge rusher, do they still stick with their 260 plus guys, or do they draft some little bit smaller guys? I don't think they're going to go too small, because I don't think Goody wants the guys that are 245 pounds, but we'll see with that. So yeah, thanks Ryan for that question. Next question, Steve Heilmeyer. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Heilmeyer, I think this is. He says, besides Kinchens and Newman, who are some of the ideal safety fits for the Packers defense? Thanks. I've kind of talked about him before. One of the guys I like for them is a good fit for them, Bo Braid. He can kind of play in the box or back. I like him. Kalen Bullocks is kind of a fit. I don't know if he was a great fit just because he's an inconsistent tackler. He doesn't like playing the run, but that's not too important when you're playing, cover when you're playing over the top. But the tackling is important because you're the last line of defense. If that corner gets beat, you have to be able to tackle the receiver or running back or tight end, whoever it is that beats him. You have to be able to make that tackle. And if he misses that tackle, boom, the receiver's off and for 50, 60-yard touchdowns. So that's kind of one of the things I worry about him. Another guy I like is Keaton Oladapo from Oregon State. He can play again also that box role, but he can also play back and free safety at times too. He can kind of play both spots. If I would say he's probably better for the strong safety, of course, playing in the box. So he's a big dude. He's like 6'2", 319, I think it was, at the Senior Bowl. So he's probably better for the strong safety spot, but he can play both. So those are a couple guys I like that fit. Like I said, besides Kitchen and Newman. Yeah. So next question from the coach extraordinaire of the Packers, Jake Shavink. He's the new DC. He's supposed to be the new DC. He says, who would be my favorite O-line and running back to target with the Packers on day 3 of the draft? So running back is basically anybody. There's only going to be a couple guys probably that go day 2. You know, your Trey Benson's and probably your Jonathan Edwards. Not Edwards. All right, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So anyway, back to Jake's question. So favorite O-line and running backs on day 3 for the Packers. So one I kind of like is Tylen Grable from UCF. He's a little bit older guy. He played at a small Jacksonville State and then transferred over to UCF for his last 2 years. He's like 6'5", 305. He's got some talent. I think he could be a rotational, or not rotational, sorry, a swing tackle. Sorry. I think he could be a good swing tackle. He's a little bit older again, like an older guy. He's like 24, I think. But he's a day 3 guy I like for depth. Another one I like, actually, Preston Wilson from Oklahoma State. He's another day 3 guy that could develop into a starter, and he has what the Packers like is he has experience. He's played 4 positions, all four, both guards and both tackles. And he's like the size they like, 6'5", about 300 pounds. He's like a 6-year guy, so he's a little bit older, but with some added bulk and some added strength and stuff like that, he could be potentially developed into a starter, I think. So he's a guy like that would fit for them. He's a better fit as a guard, but he can play tackle if need to be. So the running backs, though, there's a bunch of them, but just off top, a couple of them on top of my head: Rasheen Ali from Marshall, Ray Davis from Kentucky, and Edwards from Georgia. Kind of those 3 guys I kind of like for the Packers on day 3. Next question, Joey Van Zumeren, one of our buddies. He asked me my thoughts on Brenton Cox's role under Hafley. Probably the same as it was last year. I didn't love his college film anyway. So I think basically the number 5 edge rusher. He'll probably play a little bit more this coming year, especially with Kingsley's knee injury. Even if they draft somebody, he'll probably play at least some this year. He didn't really play any last year. But there's some stuff I don't like about him. He didn't, he gave up on plays. He's not really all that athletic. But he's long and he's a power rusher like the Packers kind of like. So I think he'll play some, but I don't think he'll play a lot. He'll probably be the number 5 edge rusher, like I said. Next, from Christopher Karlecki. Sorry, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. He wants a dark horse on the roster who has not accomplished much, but could break out this year. It's a good question, actually. I mean, the rookies from this past year, like Jonathan Brooks from Bowling Green, I think he could break out this year, even though a lot of people like him. I think he could end up potentially being maybe not necessarily a starter, but being the number 3 defensive lineman. So he could end up playing a lot with Wyatt and rotating with Wyatt, basically. So he's one that could break out this year. Wicks has always been my guy, so I think he could be breakout that type guy this year. Although I don't know if not really using him to be dark horse. Dark horse then. Actually, he's not. I don't know if there's really much of anybody that could be a dark horse on the roster to break out. Got to think about that for a second. Actually, maybe Benny Sapp. Maybe he has kind of a breakout. I don't know about breakout, like as far as he's gonna be a starter or anything like that. But I think he can come in and play some reps. Maybe if he does well enough, maybe like number 3 or 4 safety and play on special teams, of course, and get some reps here and there on defense. So I guess Benny Sapp, I guess. Okay, so next question from Jack Brentonall, buddy over there across the pond. He says, "What position do you think the Packers are most likely to target in the first round? And if you were the GM, would that be the same or different?" What position? I don't think it's one specific position, just because how they're picking so late in the draft. I think they're going to kind of let the board just kind of fall to them and then pick from a couple positions. But yeah, I've talked about it before, probably a bunch of times. Um, I think probably corner, safety, or maybe offensive tackle as like a kind of a dark horse position. But probably corner or safety, I would say, was one that will target. And would I pick the same or different? I'd probably be a little bit more willing to take a tackle, just because I think honestly Rasheed Walker probably would be better as a right tackle, and then you move Zach Tallman into center. But it seems like LaFleur doesn't want to do that. But I've talked about that before. That's what I would do, and then draft a rookie tackle to play left tackle. But I would still target the same positions, basically corner, safety, and then offensive tackle. Okay, so next question from St. Palmy. He says, "Who's my favorite DTs late day 2, early day 3?" So it's a pretty decent defensive tackle class, and I'm actually doing defensive tackles for the Cheesehead TV guide, so this is kind of right up my alley. Okay, so the couple guys I do like for late day 2, early day 3 would be like a Leonard Taylor from Miami. Even though he was a 5-star guy coming out of high school, he has never really reached his potential. So there's some questions about his how hard he plays and stuff like that. So I think they can probably get him late day 2, early day 3. Also, someone like a Mason Smith from LSU, again, another guy that was kind of a 5-star guy, never really reached his potential, partially due to the ACL last year, but still he still doesn't reach it. But he came out anyway, and so he could be there too. Or his teammate Jordan Jefferson from LSU, a guy who's kind of maxed out and kind of is what he is, but he's a solid run defender. He's a decent athlete. He could play in a rotation. As another guy I like in general. Or also there's even Gabe Hall from Baylor. He'd be perfect fit as a 5 tech and a 3-4. I think that'd be a really good fit for him. I think I like him for that. Probably one more guy from Northern Iowa, Christian Boyd. Somewhat similar to George Jefferson. Just he's a big, strong run defender type guy who can chip in a little bit of the pass rush, but mostly he's going to defend the run and play well against the run and stuff like that. All right. So next question, let's see, would be from Joe. This is Joe at Work 87. Says, who are some players who could excel in the Jeff Hafley defense, and who are some players who may struggle to fit? So who may excel? I've kind of talked about it already a little tiny bit. Was I think Carrington Valentine could excel in it. I think Jair can excel in it. I think like Kenny Clark can excel in it. I think a lot of the edge rushers, Gary could excel in that, and some of the let's see, I was listening. Sorry, I think Van Ness could excel in it, just like Gary, and then Quay Walker could really excel in it if they put him at like a weak side linebacker position where he doesn't have to think too much, where he just reads and reacts, and he's in open space and he can attack the ball and that type of stuff. But who could struggle in it? I mean, even if he's healthy, Eric Stokes could struggle in it because he doesn't have great hips. So him having to turn and run with receivers on the sideline might be an issue, especially if he doesn't get all his speed back. That might be an issue for him. TJ Slayton may struggle a little bit. I'm not sure. I mean, I think he's athletic enough to do okay in it, but he won't be playing like a nose tackle type position. He'll be playing more on the side, and so maybe he struggles a little bit. I don't know if I would say struggle too much, but maybe a little bit. But I mean, there's not many other guys that I can think of that would struggle too much with the transition to the new defense. Because these days, 3-4-4-3. It's not too many big differences. I mean, there's some differences with gaps and in zones and that type of stuff, and zone drops, which you don't really do in 4-3, but you do in 3-4 at times with your edge rushers. But overall, I don't think there's too many guys that would struggle with the new defense. Yeah, I'm just trying to think in my head. I don't think there's mentioned who guys that would struggle with it other than those couple of guys. All right, thanks for that question. That was good. Actually, good question. That was an interesting question. That was a good question. Okay, next question from I'm gonna go through these pretty quick. From Adam Huddle, Huddle A12. So my favorite box safety in this draft. So if we're talking just like a Packers type guy, one that would fit for the Packers, it would probably be like Bo Braid. Actually, I've kind of mentioned it before. I think he could be a really good box safety in Green Bay. Plus, he's got the athleticism and size and cover skills that they generally like. But I mean, if you watch him in plays in Maryland when he was coming down the box, ooh, buddy, blowing dudes up, and he's hitting dudes and he's taking dudes down. It's pretty nice. Also, I mentioned the guy I mentioned was Keaton Oladapo from Oregon State. Talked about him a little bit earlier. Jaden Hicks from Washington State might be a fit. I want to see how he works out because he's a pretty big dude, 6'3", 212, whatever. So I want to see how he measures in, of course, too. But I want to see how he works out, how he moves in the drills and stuff like that. But he could be a fit too if he moves well enough and can show he can cover well enough. He could be a decent fit too. Another box guy, although I don't think he's a great fit for the Packers just because of his size, is Malik Mustafa from Wake Forest. He's a good box safety too, and he's athletic. He can play special teams. He's fast. So some of the stuff the Packers like, but he's 5'9", and they don't draft guys that are 5'9", and he has small hands, short arms, so probably not their type of guy. And I think, that's pretty much it. I think Evan Williams from Oregon, he could play box. He's more of a all-around safety. He could play the box. He could play the free type of thing. But because how the Packers again like their safeties, he could be a good fit there in that box position. So yeah, so those guys. So thanks for that question, Adam. And I think I had one more question here. Sorry, I'm just looking real quick. I think that was it. No, I think there's one more. Sorry. Okay, yeah, one more. So from Ethan Ebert, he says, what player's development is going to be most important for the team to take the next step? Well, players, sorry. So I guess he means plural, so multiple guys. Obviously, Jordan Love. That's the big one. He showed this year that, he's at least top 15 quarterback in the league. But to take the next step, he's going to need to be like top 10. Well, I should rephrase that. Towards the end of the season, he was showing top 10. Early in the season, he was like, at parts of it, he was like top 15. Parts of it, he was like bottom 20. Some of the games he played. So if you continue on that trajectory he's going towards that he was at towards the end of the season and show some movement there and be like consistently a top 10 quarterback, maybe even top 8, that would be big important to the development of the team and the moving on to the next step to take the threat for a Super Bowl. Another would be just the young wide receivers. They got to develop, Wicks, Dobbs, Watson, Reed, all those guys got to develop and continue to improve. Of course, the tight ends and Musgrave and a guy from South Dakota, Tucker Kraft. Of course, he needs to develop too. He showed a lot of growth throughout the year, but still needs to continue showing growth. Sean Ryan obviously needs to improve because he's going to have first crack at the right guard spot more than likely. Maybe they bring somebody in to draft free agency, whatever, but he still needs to improve regardless. Walker would need to improve too, of course, whether he's the starting left tackle or he's the swing guy. Especially if he's a starter, that'll be important for him to show some improvement there. Josh Myers, of course, needs to show some improvement. He's being more consistent. And then on the defense, just like Carrington Valentine showing some improvement because he's still going to play a lot next year, regardless whether they draft a couple corners earlier, a couple corners later, whatever they do, he's still going to play a decent amount. So he's going to show some growth. And then, of course, our boy from Iowa, our guy from Iowa State, Anthony Johnson Jr., he's going to probably play a lot more next year. Again, regardless whether they draft 2 or 3 safeties or they bring some free agents in or whatever, his playing time is going to go up. So we're going to need to see some improvement from him too as well. Van Ness, of course, going to need to show improvement with JJ being injured. He's going to play a decent amount next year. So he's going to need to show some improvement. And then, of course, Anders Carlson is going to need to show a lot of improvement with consistency too, unless they bring another kicker and he gets beat out or what have you. But yeah, I think that's pretty much covers it. I mean, we just in general, the whole roster needs improvement, but those are the guys I think need improvement. I think that was the final question. Yep, that was it. All right, so actually, this was a little bit quicker than I thought. I thought this was going to be like 4 to 5 minutes. But thanks for stopping by and watching, guys. Make sure you guys check me out on the social media, all everywhere on the Twitter and not X, what's X? Threads and Blue Sky, all my buttons be Moffy. And then of course check out the draft podcast I've been doing with Joseph, on the Cheesehead TV YouTube channel. Make sure you guys check that out. We got quarterbacks and running backs done already, and we got wide receivers next week. And then anything else, I'll just be on Twitter. Just let me know. I'll be posting clips here and there when I get time. And I will see you guys later. Take it easy. Bye.